Raz, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. What's up, Jeff? Nice to meet you, man.
You too. Man,
Love the background.
thanking you, man. I've been a fan of yours for ages. So I remember you had a role in Doom, but then you really stuck out to me when like you sort of half kicked Van Damme's ass in the hardcore. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. That's what I'm known for in Nigeria.
really?
Doom, Resident Evil, Black Hawk Down, none of it, mate. Van Damme, he's still such a big legend there. It's really funny. Like, I'd probably go as far as to say he's a bigger legend there now than a lot of people who are like bigger now, like Jason Momoa or these kind of guys. I still would say that Van Damme is still bigger than those guys
That's
now.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. He was a legend there in Nigeria for sure.
Do you know what? That's one of my favorite Van Damme movies as well. And it was good as well because like that was sort of around the time, when Van Damme had a slump, but he was coming back up, and for him
Yeah,
to actually take a beating in a movie that he headlined was awesome.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
must have
And
been tough for you.
I know this obviously is about Son of the Soil, but that was actually crazy because shooting that sequence, I remember we hadn't done any choreography and anything, and I was getting nervous because we were shooting it, it was coming up, and I remember saying to the director, "Are we going to rehearse this, or how are we going?" I've always rehearsed fights through, and he's like, "No, no, 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 Jean Claude's got it, JC's got it." So we turn up on on the day and like literally we're just doing it bit by bit. Like he literally JC he choreographed that whole fight sequence and it lasted. Well, it was way longer than what it ended up on film, but it lasted a while. I remember it took like a whole afternoon. By the end of it, I was just in bits in terms of like he's going full on, like with his head locked, and he was already I think he was around 50 at that time, and he would still I'm 6'3", and he was still fully kicking me in the head, like in terms of reaching where he was supposed to. It was anyway that was that. But yeah, don't get
That's
me started.
awesome. Yeah, so that was like my first introduction to you, it was Doom, and then you were Van Damme in the hardcore, and then you returned with Van Damme in second in command.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
sort of after that, I've just been sort of following with what you've been doing.
yeah, man.
And now you've got Son of the Soil, which you wrote as well. Like, what
Yeah.
inspired the story? Like, what inspired you to write this?
Do you know, I've actually been writing for quite a while now. That's one of the big gifts. I'll always thank LA for giving me when I moved from the UK to LA. I came to here. Came here as an actor, and then during the process, I discovered that I could write, and that has just given me a world of creative freedom that I'm forever thankful for. But in terms of this particular project, I was working with the director Chee Keong Cheung on a previous feature called The Experiment, which we shot a couple of years before Son of the Soil. And just through conversations while I was on set with him, he was very intrigued about Nigeria and the Nigerian film industry, Nollywood. And we just started talking about what would it take to shoot an action movie out there because his whole remit is action movies. His company's Action Extreme, and hadn't actually written an out-and-out action movie before, so we just started discussing it, and we came up with like a story idea, and then I kind of went away and wrote it, and then it was green lit. Like we liked what was on page, and obviously the script is always continuously evolving and changing. But it was green lit, and then it just all kind of moved pretty fast. I was sent out to Nigeria. I did like a recce there, just looking at some possible locations that we could shoot on, and just certain different aspects I could kind of throw in the story. And within about a year, about a year later, I would say, we found ourselves out there, kind of prepping to shoot it, and it was just a fantastic, phenomenal experience. So that's kind of how it came about in terms of writing the script. It was basically I was commissioned basically to write it. Yeah.
But as you were writing it, I'm sure, like, as you were writing it, you were sort of imagining the character, envisioning the character, and like, as you would. Did you ever still, when you were writing, were you ever sort of jotting down like ideas for this is what could happen next, or this is what happened beforehand? Like, do you have ideas in the can to like carry on with this character
In terms of a sequel.
or a prequel?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a sequel. In fact, the original version of the script I wrote had elements of a prequel in it. There was way more flashback in terms of his military past and things that happened with his sister and stuff. But in terms of, to keep the story moving, to keep this,
Yeah.
keep it. pushing forward. Some of their stuff was cut, but yeah, man. I mean, for sure, I have ideas in terms of the continuation of the story, and I feel that it was kind of left with a little bit of meat on the bone as well. I feel. I mean, if kind of I don't want to, spoilers,
Yeah,
but there's definitely room for us to continue pushing this, and a lot of the characters. I've got to be honest with you. Zion aside, because the protagonist is always a little bit kind of different. But a lot of the surrounding characters were people that I'd met in my multiple trips to Nigeria who I've kind of stolen this aspect of their personality or stolen that cadence from them or the way this one speaks or just or this one's job like or this one's name. I've really taken a lot from these really, really interesting, phenomenal people that I've met in my travels in Nigeria, my cousins' friends, and who I used to go to university with, and the kind of things they'd get up to. And so I had quite a deep pool to kind of draw from in terms of creating these really colorful, crazy, characters that kind of
yeah.
permeate the whole world. It was a
And
lot
then
of fun.
what was it like shooting in Nigeria for yourself? Did you find it like stressful? Was it more relaxed than it would be like shooting within like the UK or the States?
I found it more stressful, and I know better as well because I go backwards and forwards. But I found it more stressful listening to people who hadn't been there saying, "Oh, you're going to shoot there? Oh, isn't it dangerous? Oh, you're going to do this, isn't it that?" And like you get there, and don't get me wrong. I mean, some of it is warranted, but you get there. Everyone just wants to work at the end of the day. Anyone who's doing anything is usually there's money behind it. If it's not passion or love driven, it's
Yeah,
usually financially driven. And these guys would go into their community, and we weren't there to take advantage or to exploit or anything like that. We were working with them. Lagos is such a big character in this movie. Lagos deserves a number on the call sheet. That's how deep a character Lagos is on this project. It's just the people and the energy and the music, and you can almost smell it through the screen, which is, I mean, that just tells you how like kind of deep the energy of Lagos was, I feel, in this film. That we paid like the local people, so like everyone was part of it. It felt like it was our project, not
yeah,
just like we came in and did it in your space. It's like our collective project. A lot of these bad so-called characters, these area boys that were hanging around on the street corners, they were in the movie, and they gave it so much authenticity because you could just look at them and know, okay, you just don't mess with that guy. Like
yeah.
it's just clear. It's like you know what I mean. And some of these guys are in the background, like, and we gave them like, you know, guns and stuff like that. And you just as soon as you look at him, you're just like, okay, he's been here before. Homeboy's been here before. Do you know what I mean? It was just clear. Like we hired them and we were getting paid and they were cool. And by the end of it, we'd befriended them. It became more than just a working relationship. So it was just such a beautiful experience working with these guys and they gave everything, man. Like if we needed something, I remember there was a scene I was gonna I had this idea about using a rat in this particular scene. And I remember speaking to one of the guys, and he was like, "Don't worry, bro. I'll get it for you. I'll get you one." I'm like, "You gonna get me a rat?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah, don't worry." Like he was gone for like 30 minutes. He came back with one in a freaking box. I was like, bro, and we didn't even end up using it. Like just craziness like that was going on. Like it was just I got a million and one stories. I don't want to take all the time, but it was a
That's
lot
great.
of fun shooting. So I loved it, and I can't wait to go back.
And then just upon like what we had spoke about at the start, like when I said that, just to brush over that you had been like in action scenes with Van Damme and all this, you're action ready. So getting set for this movie here with the heat and all that, how did you make sure you were action ready to shoot in Nigeria?
I actually, I was working out quite a lot for that movie. Funny enough, other than the Van Damme one, and you mentioned Hardcore, I feel like maybe this was one of the movies I've worked out for the most. I feel I was doing a lot, man, and because I knew as an actor and the writer and stuff, and one of the producers on it, I knew I wouldn't get that much time to focus on me once we got started. So I was doing a lot of stuff beforehand
Yeah.
and it did really help. If anything, it's just gonna sound so freaking vain, but I was actually mad I didn't get to show my body a little bit more because I was like, dude, I was working out so hard. I knew I was in good shape. I was in good shape on this movie, and I was like, just covered up the whole thing. But that aside, there was one of the hardest scenes for me to shoot was actually that one of the opening scenes when I turn up and I'm wearing the suit and it was so hot with the humidity.
Yes.
I don't actually know how I made it through because in my head I'm thinking I just must look like I'm just covered in sweat. And when I saw it back, I was like, I can't believe I don't look more hot than what I was because it was so hot. Wearing a black suit and tie, done up for a funeral,
Yeah.
and it took hours and hours to shoot. Walk in the midday sun, that was not comfortable at all. I took that suit off and it was wringing wet. That was very uncomfortable.
Take
But
you more than
aside
one
from
suit.
no.
Oh no.
No, there was one suit,
Oh no.
and it was actually my suit, and it was actually a Juicy Couture suit as well, and I just ruined it. That suit is dead. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was, but I learned a valuable lesson from that. I will never write a scene where I'm shooting in Nigeria where I'm wearing any layers, especially if it's a daytime shoot. Again, I will never do that again. I learned a good lesson. That was a rookie mistake, I think. But it looked great, I think. It looked good. But to be honest with you, it was part of the project as well, the juxtaposition or the difference between him standing out. He's coming from overseas, he's wearing a three-piece suit in the middle of this, African vibrant city, and everyone else is kind of looking at him like, well, where are you coming from? Like, who are you? Kind of, it
Yeah.
lent itself as well to the story. So, I mean, that was also part of it. But yeah.
By the looks of it as well, I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like if you did, you hit it well. You didn't really use a stunt double.
We did.
You
We did,
did?
but thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I always have prided myself with doing my own stunts. But then you start getting a little bit up there in age, and you're like, oh wow, man, I guess I don't mind if he does that actual bit there. I would rather actually not be on the floor there with 20 boots, getting kicked in. I did a lot. I did a lot of my own stunts, but there was definitely a few moments here. The guy we used, I can't actually remember his real name, but we called him Liquid Metal. That was his name on set was Liquid Metal. He actually does kickboxing and stuff like that. He's
Really?
really, really talented guy. But no, he did a lot of my body double stuff. And he was used as well as one of the bad guys in the movie as well. And shout out to him, he did a tremendous job. And all the other guys, Adam's Effects as well, who was our main stunt guy, who did some of the choreography with the stunts. And yeah, yeah.
Because what the scene I was thinking of was the scene on like the boat chase, whenever
Mm.
your character's firing at the other boat.
Mm.
That looked like it was fully you as well. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, that was fully me. That was fully me in the boat. Yeah, doing
And
all that
man,
stuff. Yeah,
that's brave. I'm not
and
gonna lie, I would have fell out.
yeah. Now Ty Hopkins, I have to give him a shout out as well. He was our armorer and he was kind of putting us through the paces with the weapons. I actually originally, again, when I wrote that scene, it ended differently, and my character actually dives into the water to escape a machine gun, and then he kind of gets closer to him, and then there's a fight on his boat, and there was so many things change on film period, whether it's a
Yeah.
studio or independent, but definitely on our low budget independent action flick that we threw together. There were things that definitely we had to kind of move on because we just didn't have the time in the end to get it. But I thought it worked really well, how that scene ended up, and yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun to
And
do.
I said to Chi yesterday, it was really cool the way your character was human. Like there was a reference when you got like beat up, they like called you like John Wick or something to that effect.
Yeah,
But like, your
that was ad
character
lib.
does get like a beaten. You get beat, you get shot, you get stabbed, you go through the ringer.
Mm.
Um, was that something you wanted yourself as you were writing it to keep him as like the everyday man?
Yeah, it was part that, and also I got to give Chi as well his flowers on that. He really did kind of hammer home the point that this guy needs to die in order to live, and I fully get it. And even for me writing, I knew that because of the dynamic of him coming from overseas to Nigeria. I didn't want him to be like, the Westers coming in, even though he's Nigerian himself. I still didn't want it to be the narrative where, oh, this guy from the States has come in with a big S on his chest and is saving the day. And I didn't want it to be that. He had to be brought back down to earth. His life had to be in danger. He had to realize these are real guns and real bullets and real knives. And he couldn't, it wasn't going to be plain sailing. And as well, I needed to have enough motivation to justify his future actions when he does get into physical altercations with others. I need it to be warranted. I want
Yeah.
him to have gone something through something physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally to make sense of him then taking the action he then winds up taking with some of these antagonistic characters that he faces.
And then
So,
what was the hardest scene for you to put together? Because like obviously, your character goes through everything. So
mm,
what did you find the most challenging to film?
probably, like I said about the heat, but that was different. But emotionally, the mother, I don't want to give away too much. It's a
Yeah.
spoiler. Yeah, stuff with the mother was difficult. And what else? Yeah, I'd say that was probably the toughest thing. And I've got to be honest as well, even to this day, there's scenes that involve the mother. I won't speak on the scenes, but to this day, I find it hard to watch. I've looked away more than once in a theater after seeing it a few times, and that tells you the gravity of that particular scene. And as well, the love I have for that actress, Patience Ozokwa, who known as Mama G, she's like a Nigerian legend. She's like how the UK would view like Dame Judi Dench or the US with Meryl Streep. You know, Patience
Yeah.
Ozokwa is up there. She's a legend, fully 100% certified ledge. And to have her bless the project with her presence and her art, and then I know I learned I loved her before that from her work, and then I actually do love her as a person, such a beautiful spirit. And then for what to transpire in a film to transpire, it just that's a difficult one for me. Yeah, for sure.
And then just before we wrap, what would you want audiences to take away from this movie? Like for anyone listening who wants to know what what's in it for them, because it's more than just a generic actioner, isn't it?
I'd like to think so for sure. I wanted these characters to be three-dimensional. I didn't want it just to be a thing where you're jumping from one action sequence to another. In terms of takeaway from it, for me, it's always been about unity, how the community ultimately came together to solve the issue. We're
Yeah.
stronger together, and I hope I don't want that lost on the audience or anyone. And as well, I feel like it's more about redemption than revenge. So I feel there's a higher ground as well that we can aspire towards. I mean, certain elements just need to be removed from society, and that is just what it is. But then within that as well, there's it's like to find peace, you just usually need to do it collectively. It's just you can't
Yeah.
just go around and say, I'm gonna demand peace for you and demand peace. No, you have to demand it of yourself. And, I feel that the movie kind of does that. I mean, with the things that we mentioned in terms of Zion and some of the challenges he faced, he only truly got to grips with his new world because he had to disconnect from his journey away. He only truly got to grips with it when he started aligning himself once more with his former colleagues or
Yeah.
former associates. And that's when they came together. And that's when real action was taken, when he started connecting with others, like-minded individuals who also wanted to affect a positive change. So for me, that's my big takeaway from this is about, unity, whether it's diaspora unifying with the African continent or just the African continent within itself unifying. I just feel ultimately we're stronger together as humanity, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my big takeaway.
Whereas, honestly, I hope this movie blows up for you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that, bro.
Because it does seem like, there was a whole lot of effort put into this, and I think it is more than a generic action movie, It's got heart, it's got soul. There's moments in it I find that were like really hard to watch, and like the people like ODing and stuff in the street. So it does
Mm,
have that factor that does get you thinking a bit more, of like drug use and stuff like that. Because,
mm,
you're not really privy to that. And like the likes of like Taken and all, it's
mm.
brief scenes, but these linger.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
It really
like,
brings it
yeah,
home, especially with the girl as well. And just quickly as well, I mean, that is based on a real epidemic. I mentioned I live in LA now, and I was watching news reports about the fentanyl epidemic out here in the States, how it's taken a hold of certain communities and what it's done. And then I watched documentaries about how it was made. And that's kind of what led me to factor it into this fictitious story because it's not something that really is. There's not a fentanyl epidemic or anything like that in Nigeria, but I mean there are other issues as well, and there are
yeah,
other substances that people are using. And again, I think just it's a universal story. Like if it happened anywhere in China or India or the UK or France or Canada, wherever, it's gonna elicit a similar response, I feel, in terms of people are gonna want to do something about it. You don't want to see your people on the street dying and suffering and, being, brutalized by these substances. And I feel that, it's an eye opener, I feel, for any community that maybe is suffering with an issue like that.
Yeah, like I do think that it does. It lingers with you after you've watched it. It gets you
Mm.
thinking.
Mm.
So
Yeah, it
if that's
does.
what you're aiming for, you've done your job.
It wasn't a primary aim, but definitely to bring awareness to issues is never a bad thing. So yeah, I hope that people maybe see it as a cautionary tale as well, because there was a lot of pain that drug or these drugs inflicted ultimately.
Raz, it has been amazing actually getting to talk to you.
Thank
Keep
you.
kicking ass and don't be a stranger to Action Reloaded.
Oh, dude, I would love to be back. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, Raz.